If you are starting your adventure with shiitake mushrooms, I will be happy to show you how to succeed in growing them at home. With a flavor similar to wild mushrooms and full of deep umami flavor, this little mushroom is worth the wait. Some people really like its taste, others not so much. Slightly larger than mushrooms and packed with vitamins, it is said to be able to strengthen the immune system. Shiitake mushrooms are fundamentally different in their growth habits than anything else in the garden. These are fungal spores that remain dormant until they find suitable conditions to grow. The simplest method of growing shiitake mushrooms is to purchase a cube with mycelium. With this method, we don't actually have to do anything and the effect appears after a week or even earlier. We can collect the first mushrooms. Shiitake mushrooms can also be grown outdoors in drilled wood, which allows you to collect mushrooms for a much longer time. Because for about 8 years. Although this process is more work and time-consuming, it is worth it. However, cube mushrooms can be grown at home all year round. However, the amount we will collect from such a cube and the harvesting period will be significantly shorter. We remove the purchased shiitake cube from the foil after 3 days. Please take into account how many days the cube was delivered by the courier company. The optimal cultivation temperature is 15 to 20 degrees Celsius, although it is good if the temperature fluctuates between 14 to 16 degrees Celsius for the first 3 days of storage. Then transfer it to a large, transparent container or a large plastic bag if you have no other options. Leave the upper part of the bag open to maintain air circulation and appropriate humidity. Or place it on a rack or oven rack with a container of water under it, but make sure the cube itself does not come into contact with it because it will start to rot. These mushrooms require very high humidity, hence this method. To start production, we need a humidity of about 75%. During fruiting it should be 90 to 95%. Water will evaporate from the bottom and the cube will absorb it. If you have an air humidifier, you can place it next to the mushrooms. On average, fresh mushrooms contain about 90% moisture, and dried mushrooms about 10 to 12%. The humidity of a given species depends on environmental factors, i.e. temperature, air humidity during vegetation and storage, as well as on the amount of metabolic water produced and secreted during storage. Fresh mushrooms contain about 1/10 of the amount of ingredients contained in dried mushrooms. Due to the high water content of raw mushrooms, they must be eaten in large quantities to provide essential nutrients to the diet. The lower the cultivation temperature, the slower the mushrooms grow, but their quality and yield are higher. Shiitake, also often called poku, is the Japanese name for the taku mushroom that grows on shii trees. Another name is siangu, an aromatic mushroom. It owes its name to its special taste and color. The sleeping Buddha mushroom is known all over the world by another name. In ancient Japan, during breeding, monks used special hammers to knock on the tree on which the mushroom was growing in order to wake up the sleeping mycelium. And the Buddha himself so that he would not forget to endow shiitake with special healing properties. In traditional Chinese medicine, shiitake is also known as the elixir of life due to its unique composition, which strengthens the immune system, stimulates the immune system to fight cancer cells, helps fight stress, and prevents the aging of the body. After about 5 to 10 days, we collect the mushrooms successively for several days. In such conditions, the most mature mushrooms should be cut out every day. The first harvest lasts about 2 weeks, after which time the substrate should be cleaned of broken stems and any impurities. Mushrooms are ready for picking when the cap begins to straighten, but its lower edges are still rolled down. The fruiting bodies should be gently twisted out of the substrate, leaving no residue. Any roots and dead mushrooms should be removed as soon as possible. After harvesting, remove the cube from the plastic bag or remove it from the tray and dry it for 2 to 3 weeks. Leave the cleaned shiitake cube at a temperature of 20 to 22 degrees Celsius. The longer the resting time, the more mushrooms we should collect in the next cycle. To stimulate the block for further fruiting after rest, it should be completely immersed in cool water. It should be non-chlorinated water. So tap water must stand for a day for the chlorine to evaporate. Soak for at least 6 hours until air bubbles stop forming. You can also leave it overnight. The cube must be completely immersed in water so that it does not flow out. You can weigh it from the top. After soaking, drain them, put them back in a plastic bag or on a tray and wait about 10 days for the next crop of mushrooms. You can enjoy such harvests for a long time because you will get as many as 4 to 5 shoots of mushrooms from one cube. The first, small caps should appear after a few days, and large, ready-to-cut mushrooms, those with caps with a diameter of about 8 centimeters, after 6 to 7 days of cultivation. You can get at least a couple of sets of fruiting bodies from a cube, provided you give it a rest after the first harvest. Second fruiting will occur approximately 30 days after all the mushrooms have been collected. When growing shiitake, remember about the hygiene of the crop. Dead remains after harvesting the mushrooms must be removed. If green molds appear on the substrate, before or after soaking, they should be scraped off in this pond so that they do not infect its further part. And finally, a curiosity. You can turbocharge your mushrooms with vitamin D in an easy way. After harvesting the shiitake mushrooms, place them in a sunny place with the gills up for 24 to 48 hours. This has been scientifically proven to dramatically increase the levels of natural vitamin D2 in shiitake mushrooms from approximately 100 IU 100 grams to almost 46,000 IU 100 gram. Used shiitake logs or substrates still have a lot of life in them, but it may no longer be enough to grow mushrooms. But this spent mushroom bed makes great compost to add to your gardens. There are only a few flowering shrubs, gardenias, camellias, and hydrangeas that do not like mushroom compost. But apart from that, used shiitake mushroom substrate is gold in the garden. Large amounts of substrate should be aired for several months in the open in mounds to allow the salt to be washed out before being used for fruit and vegetable crops. Smaller amounts can be evenly mixed into new garden beds or added to the compost bin. Don't be surprised because you can even accidentally grow shiitake mushrooms right on top of the composter. Additionally, substrate can be added on top of freshly seeded lawns, as the sterile but nutritious substance will retain moisture and nourish the new lawn. Shiitake can be eaten fresh, dried, and can be pickled. Shiitake mushrooms should be heat treated for a very short time, otherwise they harden. In Japan, it has been used for several hundred years to treat, among others, tumors, colds, heart disease, and problems caused by aging. The anti-cancer effect of shiitake mushroom was proven already in the 1960s thanks to experiments conducted at the National Cancer Research Institute in Tokyo. Shiitake mushroom has an ideal protein that contains all the basic amino acids in the proportions that are considered the best. Shiitake mushrooms contain large amounts of B vitamins, vitamins D, A, C, E, H, K and PP, as well as acid pantothenic. Edible mushrooms also contain significant amounts of mineral salts. In the case of trace elements, necessary in biochemical processes, these amounts are almost unbelievably high.